Science!
Welcome to Science this week, everybody. And I wanted to start this week's episode talking about some people involved in some of the projects that we talk about here. We talk about a lot of various experiments, missions, projects, all sorts of stuff coming from NASA on this segment. But what about the people that are involved? For the first time in NASA's history, right now in 2019, women are in charge of 3 out of 4 science divisions at the agency. The Earth Science, Heliophysics, and Planetary Science divisions now all have women at their helm. Each hails from a different country and brings unique experience to NASA's exploration efforts. So let's start with the acting director of the Earth Science Division, Sandra Cauffman. She leads the agency's efforts to understand the intricacies of our home planet. Now, in case you were wondering, this is the only planet we know of in the known universe that can support the life that we know can survive. So she's doing a lot of important work helping us to survive on this planet. Her journey to NASA has been one full of determination and persistence. She grew up in Costa Rica, and her mother remained very positive while struggling to provide for her children. And Cauffman says, even when we didn't have anything, even when we got kicked out of places, even when we ended up living in an office because we had no place to go, she was always positive. You can do anything that you want to, you just have to put your mind to it, her mother would tell her. Because the family had no television, they had to go to a neighbor's house to watch the Apollo 11 landing in 1969. Cauffman remembers, I just remember telling my mom I wanted to go to the moon. After working hard to put herself through school, she joined NASA in February of 1991 as the ground systems manager for the satellite servicing project at Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. She worked on Hubble's first servicing mission, the Upper Atmosphere Research Satellite, the Explorer platform, Extreme Ultraviolet Explorer, and so many others. After 25 years at Goddard, she moved to NASA headquarters in 2016 and became Deputy Director for the Earth Science Division in the Science Mission Directorate. In February of this year, 2019, upon the retirement of Michael Frelich, she was named Acting Director of the Earth Science Division. In her early NASA career, she was often the only woman, or one of very few women, that were in the room, and developed the courage to speak up for herself. These days, with more and more women contributing to NASA, Cauffman looks for opportunities to make sure everyone's voice is heard. What we do in observing Earth as a system gives us the additional benefit of helping humans here on Earth survive hurricanes, tornadoes, pollution, fires, and help public health, she said. Understanding the oceans, the algae blooms, all of those things help humans right here on Earth. Her message to young people who aspire for a career like hers reflects her mother's message to her. Don't give up at the first no. With determination and perseverance, we can become what we dream we can become. Wise words, and really, really inspiring. And so cool how she has created her career to be what it is, and now she is acting director of the Earth Science Division at NASA. Now on over to the Heliophysics Division. Nicola Fox, who is the director of that division, leads NASA's efforts to explore the star that makes life possible on Earth, our sun. Scientists who study heliophysics are looking at how the sun impacts our planet and the rest of the solar system, as well as how we can protect astronauts, satellites, and robotic missions from its harsh conditions. Fox says, ever since people first looked up, they've been looking at the bright light in the sky. We are really the oldest science branch. A native of Hitchin, a small English town, Fox also had a special connection to the Apollo 11 moon landing. When she was just 8 months old, her father took her out of her crib, propped her up at the television, and gave her a running commentary of the historic event. After earning a bachelor's degree in physics, Fox earned a master's program in telematics, satellite and computer engineering, when she was in a cohort of 4 women out of 280 students. She then went on to complete a PhD in space and atmospheric physics. She moved to the United States to pursue her postdoctoral fellowship at Goddard. The late Mario Acuna, a pioneer in the study of planetary magnetic fields, was a mentor there to Fox. And as she says, really pushed me to do things that were outside of my comfort zone. In 1998, she moved to the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, and recently she served as the project scientist for NASA's Parker Solar Probe, which launched in 2018 as the first mission to touch the sun. And we've talked about that experiment right on this very segment. In fact, I added my name and my wife's name to the little drive that is on that probe that is orbiting the sun, because it will eventually go into the sun and my name will be burned up along with many others. She moved to NASA headquarters to lead the Heliophysics division in September of 2018. She has loved how everyone from rocket engineers to custodians are part of NASA exploration missions and taking part in something so much greater than you, as she says. Her message to the next generation of space fans is there's a career for everyone at NASA. If you think about the diversity of roles that take getting a mission into space, all different types of jobs come together. If you want to work at NASA, there's a job for you. Pretty awesome and inspiring. And there are so many people that work for NASA and now for other companies like SpaceX and things that, echo those same sentiments, that if you want to work in that field, there's a job for you. No matter if you are, super scientific brain and you want to be the head of one of these, branches someday, or you just want to just get your hands dirty and, work on the ground floor of something. There's a job for everyone at NASA, and that's exciting. So finally, at the Planetary Science Division, the leader there is Lori Glaze. And Planetary Science Division actually focuses on space missions and research that could seek answers to all the questions that are out there, the ones that we talk about on this show. How the solar system formed, how it evolved, how planets evolve and form and coalesce and make, huge galaxies. Are there other worlds that could support life, that do support life, that supported life in the past? All these questions are hopefully going to be answered by the Planetary Science Division. And Lori Glaze is the leader there. And when Glaze was growing up, her mother worked as an aeronautical engineer and was very passionate about her work. From mechanical work on commercial airliners to the space shuttle program, Glaze's mother persisted in what was a very male-dominated field at the time. But she never thought twice about it. She worked and grew in the field she loved, and that made a huge impression on Lori. She went on to say, "This was a tremendous inspiration for me as a young woman seeking that a technical career, a career in leadership in a mathematical or scientific field, was possible." In 1980, when Glaze was a high school student in Seattle, she heard the blast of Mount St. Helens erupting. And as this episode goes out, it is almost on that anniversary. Mount St. Helens erupted on May 18th, 1980. And silicate ash shards rained down on houses and cars and windows and everything in its path. And between this experience and the exhibit about the eruption of Pompeii at her school, Glaze became very transfixed on volcanoes. And then in college, she actually learned that volcanoes aren't just on Earth, and we're learning more and more about this every single day. NASA's Voyager mission had revealed the first proof of volcanic activity beyond our planet at Jupiter's moon Io in 1979. Now we know Mars has a giant dormant volcano, Olympus Mons, the tallest literal volcano in our solar system. Venus also holds our planetary record for the most volcanoes. And we still don't know if any of them are active, but we are sending more probes to that planet all the time. So Glaze's curiosity led to her wonder about the way lava flows, how eruptions happen, and the differences among volcanoes on different planets. She ended up getting her bachelor's and master's degree in physics at the University of Texas, Arlington. And then while she was working at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, she earned a PhD in environmental science from Lancaster University in the UK. Since then, Glaze has been involved with many NASA-sponsored Venus mission concept studies, including as a member of the Venus Flagship Science and Technologically Definition Team, as science champion for the Venus Mobile Explorer in 2010, and the co-science champion for the Venus Intrepid Lander in 2010. Before her move to NASA headquarters in 2018, she had also was the principal investigator of a Venus atmospheric entry probe called Deep Atmosphere Investigation of Noble Gases, Chemistry, and Imaging, or Da Vinci. Again, we've talked about this on this very show. Over the last 10 to 15 years, Glaze has witnessed a huge growth in opportunities for women like herself to not only work in NASA, but to work in NASA in leadership positions. And as recently as 2 years ago, Glaze realized she was the only woman at a particular study meeting. But she still felt her contributions were respected and valued. She has found NASA's Science Mission Directorate especially welcoming. And she goes on to say, it's the most diverse group of people I have ever worked with. And it's the kind of place where you feel like everyone's ideas are being heard and really moving along and advancing our understanding and how we want to go about doing science at NASA. I think it's a great place to be today. Thomas Zuberchin, the Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate at NASA's headquarters, had this to say: "We have an extraordinary group of women responsible for the success of dozens of NASA space missions and research programs, revealing new insights about our planet, sun, and solar system." And to end this segment, I have a fun little video that highlights these three amazing women at NASA right here.
My whole life, I'd always had this amazing dream that, the best thing you could possibly do was work for NASA.
We were watching, the moon landing. And I told Mom I wanted to go to the moon. That day I told Mom that I wanted to go to the moon. And, you would think that Mom will be negative about the whole thing. Basically, what she told me was, you can be anything that you want to. Just put your mind to it and work hard, and you never know.
My mother was an aeronautical engineer. She was just a no-nonsense, I'm gonna work hard and I'm gonna get the job done, and she did. To me, that was just a tremendous inspiration for me as a young woman, seeing that a technical career and that a career in leadership in a mathematical or a scientific field was possible.
The best mentors that I have ever had have been those people who helped me figure things on my own, not tell me what to do, but through questions and answers, they extract what is it that I want to do and where I want to go.
People that just gave me confidence and gave me the idea that I could do it and I should try, because there's nothing wrong with trying.
We have the power within us to really be whoever we want to be, and if we want to be engineers, scientists, or astronauts, or whatever, what have you, that we can do that. It is important to have the diversity, not just in disciplines and technical expertise, but walks of life.
I have many times found myself to be the only woman in the room. There's really been a tremendous emphasis over at least the last 10 or 15 years in really making sure that we provide opportunities, that there are opportunities for women to excel and to work in leadership positions, and I'm seeing more and more and more of that.
For those young girls nowadays that are growing up, they can see so many role models and so many examples and so many places they can say, I want to be like her.
People are just inspired by what NASA does, and people look at you differently when I'm on a plane and they see my NASA pin, and the first thing they say is, "Oh, do you work for NASA?" And you'd say, yes, I do.
So I think it is important that the girls have the role models, because they cannot be who they cannot see.
There are people who understand what you've been through, and you've got to just keep pursuing and be persistent, and there'll always be, you got to have the first one there, so keep going.
If you love something so much, you will be successful because you put your heart and soul into it. Follow your dreams, because they'll always take you to success.
Incredible work. incredible women, and we live in an incredible age in 2019 with space exploration. These women are at the forefront of being leaders in our space exploration from NASA and will help us learn the mysteries of the solar system. And eventually, in our very, very, very short future, we'll be putting the first woman on the moon and then on Mars. So next up on the segment this week, something from ancient dino DNA, as they say in Jurassic Park. We found a new dinosaur, a tiny dinosaur from the Jurassic period that seems to have bat-like wings. Now, I'm going to butcher this. It's named Ambopteryx Longibrachium. The scientific name of this. This new dinosaur lived approximately 163 million years ago, which puts it smack dab in the middle of the Jurassic period. And it was found in what is now considered China. Now, you remember back then, Pangea, everything was kind of all mishmashed around. This prehistoric creature had a body length of about 12 and a half inches, about 32 centimeters. And an estimated mass of about 300 grams, so it's small. It belongs to an extinct family of climbing and gliding non-avian theropod dinosaurs. Say that 5 times fast. Or they're called, and I'm going to get this wrong again, they're called Scansoriopterygidae. Yeah, I got it wrong. Those types of dinosaurs differ from other theropods in their body proportions, particularly in the proportions of the forelimb, which supports a bizarre wing structure first recognized in Yiqui, a close relative of this new dinosaur that was found, said team leader Dr. Ming Wang and his colleagues. They went on to say, unlike other flying dinosaurs, namely birds, these two species have membranous wings supported by a rod-like wrist bone that is not found in any other dinosaur, but is present in pterosaurs and flying squirrels. And you probably know of pterosaurs, again from Jurassic Park and those types of movies, the pterodactyl, those are pterosaurs, and they have like the membrane wings, not really like the feather wings that we know in birds. A nearly complete skeleton of this new dinosaur was unearthed near Wubedang village in China's Liaoning province. And the paleontologist went on to say, due to the incomplete preservation in the only known specimen of Yiqui, the veracity of the unique wing structures and their exact functions remained hotly debated. In contrast, feathered wings, first documented in the late Jurassic non-avian dinosaurs, were further refined through the evolution of numerous skeletal and soft tissue modifications, giving rise to at least 2 additional independent origins of dinosaur flight and ultimately leading to the current success of modern birds. And I showed you a little bit of an animation of what we think this dinosaur might have been like, very flying squirrel-like. And when I talk about non-avian dinosaurs, that's obviously non-flying, not the pterodactyls, but dinosaurs that we found that have either had feathers or some sort of like wing structure. And to give you a little bit of backstory on that, in 1969, John Ostrom actually described Deinonychus anteriohoppus. Dinosaur names are so hard. A theropod which he had discovered in Montana in 1964 and whose skeletal resemblance to birds literally seemed unmistakable. But this was brand new thinking in 1969. Ostrom became a leading proponent of the theory that birds are direct descendants of dinosaurs, and further comparisons of bird and dinosaur skeletons, as well as other comparisons, strengthened the case for the link, particularly for a branch of theropods called maniraptors, not mini raptors, but maniraptors. Skeletal similarities include the neck, the pubis, the wrists, where those new bones have been found, the arms, and the shoulder blades, and even the clavicle and breastbone. In all, over 100 distinct anatomical features are shared by birds and theropod dinosaurs. Other researchers drew on these shared features and other aspects of dinosaur biology, dino DNA, and began to suggest that at least some theropod dinosaurs were feathered. Now, after a century of hypothesis without conclusive evidence, well-preserved fossils of feathered dinosaurs were discovered during the 1990s, and more continued to be found. At the turn of the century in 1900 was when people even just began to theorize, what if dinosaurs share any commonality with modern-day birds? And it wasn't until the 60s that we even started to find fossil evidence that might support this. And then fast forward to the 90s, where actual fossil evidence was irrefutable. The fossils were preserved in a sedimentary deposit exhibiting remarkable richness and completeness in its fossils, again in Liaoning, China. The area had repeatedly been smothered in volcanic ash produced by eruptions in Inner Mongolia over 124 million years ago during the early Cretaceous. So a lot of these fossils were in the perfect area to be preserved. And the area also was teeming with life millions of years ago. Insects, fish, frogs, salamanders, mammals, turtles, lizards, and dinosaurs have all been discovered in this area. And this idea was made famous and mainstream again in the 90s, thanks to, as I've mentioned a bunch of times, Jurassic Park. If you remember Alan Grant in the movie, he says how he thoroughly believes that raptors, the velociraptors, share a lot with birds, and he's ridiculed for it. And we now know today that he was on the forefront of this new thought, and it really is true that birds and dinosaurs share a lot of common ancestry. And as we look at some examples, several non-avian dinosaurs are now known to have been feathered. Direct evidence like this of feathers exists for several different species. In all examples, the evidence described consists of feather impressions, except those generally inferred to have feathers based on skeletal or chemical evidence, such as the presence of quill knobs, the anchor points for wing feathers on the forelimbs, or something called pygostyle, the fused vertebrae of the tail tip, which often supports large feather systems. And we know all of this to be true now because of the fossil record. And it's really cool when in science, in any science, scientists will have this theory and it can be completely outlandish. Think about the first paleontologists who were like, I believe that there is a correlation between dinosaurs and birds. They were laughed at. People were like, that's ridiculous. Dinosaur means giant lizard. They are completely descended from lizards, or lizards are descended from dinosaurs. That's how that works. And we now know through the fossil record that that's untrue. And it's really, really cool that we're still finding new evidence and new dinosaurs with different wing structures, like this brand new one that we just found. And we're always going to find new stuff, as paleontologists are always digging up more stuff. And we'll be talking about it right here on The Science on Fueled by Deathcast.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.